action underway here with the Prevagen women's 100 meters. Paul Swangard joined by Otto Boden. Sonia Richards-Ross is here. Lewis Johnson will be talking to the athletes down on the field of play. And when we talk about the Olympics, we might as well start with the reigning Olympic champion.
Yeah, she's been the reigning Olympic champion since 2016. That's almost 8 full years of being the reigning Olympic champion at both 100 and 200. And yet, 2 weeks ago in Eugene, she was dead last. She is the kind of athlete, given her experience and ability, who can figure it out, but she's running out of time. And of course, Jamaica swept the podium in Tokyo at the last Olympics, first, second, and third, led by the woman on your screen.
As we mentioned, a lot of stars are here, and listen for the introductions here for American Gabby Thomas, herself an Olympic medal hopeful.
And also coming off of a last race being a subpar race. That was when we saw her last month in Los Angeles. Personal best 11 flat. She ran a 10.88 this year, slightly windy. That got my attention. But she has to bounce back from how she looked in LA. I think she will here. But she's got the Olympic champion next to her, and also Aaliyah Hobbs in 4, who has a 10.81 personal best. You better believe she's going to factor here. This is a hot 100.
Yeah, Hobbs was the U.S. champion back in 2018.
On your mark. And the entire crowd rises to their feet. You don't want to sit down for a race like this.
And one of the great pieces of the atmosphere here at Randall's Island is the Jamaican crowd that is here in full force. We've been hearing the horns all afternoon in the races leading up here.
Phones up, people up, kids on shoulders.
And it's an Olympic year. These races matter more than ever, even though this is just a dress rehearsal. This is the road to Paris. And the 100 meters underway, and it's Aaliyah Hobbs that it's out well in lane number 4. And then out wide, that's a Kinnison. And in 3 at the lean, it's Favor Ofili of Nigeria.
So imagine her confidence going back to practice as we see the Olympic champion limping post-race. Imagine Favor Ofili's confidence going back. Yeah, so this is what has been hampering her for almost a decade now, folks. She has an Achilles tendon, which she has tried to get right. She usually gets it right in Olympic year. She has no individual world titles, but this is what? So this is 2 successive races now where she's been in the back. She looked good for a while, but the Olympic champion still struggling, as you see Favor Ofili in that lane 3. So there's the Olympic champion in orange, but to the right of your screen, look at Favor Ofili leading the field. Aaliyah Hobbs trying to get back to her, but it was Ofili that hangs on for the win. The Olympic champion, a lot of questions as to whether she is going to be ready in 3 weeks for those Jamaican championships to pick the team to go to Paris.
Just like the United States, just because you were the winner last time around doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a spot in Paris, as Gabby Thomas makes it way, and the Olympic champion has helped through that mix zone. And let's go down and hear from the winner, Favor Ofili, who's with Lewis Johnson. Lou?
All right, she's gotten us off to a great start with the flowers. Favor, that was a hot race. You were lined up against some great talent. Of course, you were one of them. Take us from the start, how you thought the race played out to the victory.
I was like, I'm close to my teammate, Aaliyah and Micaiah. Just like practice, just like home meet. Stay calm and just go finish your transition, because that is the issue. Yeah. And then whatever happens, happens. Because I wanted to get the standard here, but I give God all the glory for the win.
And for those who don't understand, you have to contest the Nigerian Championships trials, which will be next week in Benin, Nigeria. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. And how's your confidence now going back for that?
I mean, just like I said, stay calm and just do what I know how to do. Got my teammates, go back, do a little training before I go back home, and the rest leave it for God, because he knows the future, not me.
Great run here and a long journey back. Good luck there, and we hope to see you in Paris.
Thank you.
All righty, Paul.
A big smile from the winner here, but the story of this day is the reigning Olympic champion being carried off.
Yeah, this is not how you want to see the Olympic champion looking. a month and a half out from the game.
Okay, but on this Sunday, one of the big stories is the return of Kara Winger. The return, you say? Well, we all thought she had hung it up after winning a silver medal on home soil on her last throw at Hayward Field in the women's javelin. But she had a change of heart. And it's not just that easy, because she had donated her favorite javelin to the USOPC museum, so she had to go retrieve it. I guess there's a liberal loan policy there. And
lucky
so,
for her.
Lucky for her, and now she is here. Now, because she was a global medalist, she is going to be able to compete at the Olympic trials, but to make the team in Paris, she's got to throw 64 meters, which is 209 feet 11 inches. Today, she got so close, 207.5, but she will be in Eugene in a couple of weeks and will try to make that team once again. Meantime, in the women's high jump, 14-time U.S. champion Vashti Cunningham here. Her father, Randall Cunningham, the standout NFL legend quarterback, still her coach, and she clears 6'4" 3/4 today as she eyes another return to a global team, and she outlasts Takahashi of Japan to take the victory in the women's high jump. As we go back to the track, it's time for the women's 100-meter hurdles. You look at the world and American records. This is a very intriguing and deep group of hurdlers here today with a number of unique storylines, including here.
Yeah, she's been a heptathlon medalist each of the last 2 world championships, bronze in 22 and silver last year. That came down to the wire. But she had a knee procedure in January. She's still working her way back from that.
And next to her is Alicia Johnson. She was 4th at the U.S. Championships last year. That's not where you want to be in a couple of weeks in Eugene. She was an All-American at the University of Oregon.
Next to her in lane 7, the former world record holder, bronze last year at Worlds, silver 5 years ago at Worlds, and 4th in 2017. She also made the final at home when Worlds were in Eugene, Oregon. Her personal best is 12:20, the best in the field.
Our first race at the Millrose Games here in New York back in February was Devin Charlton breaking the world record. She did it again, winning gold in Glasgow as the world indoor champion.
She's been the most improved hurdler in the world, I think. And here is the reigning world record holder, world champion back in 2022. That's when she ran that 12:12 world record in the semifinals. But last year, only 6th in the final at the World Championships in Budapest.
And you gotta love when you have the world record holder next to the reigning world champion, Danielle Williams of Jamaica. She won it back in 2015 and won it again last year in Budapest.
Yeah, she's gonna be tough to beat here. She'll be in 4. Tania Marshall was supposed to be in lane 3. But this is Masai Russell, 3rd last year to make her first world team and then made it to the semifinals at the World Championships in Budapest. She was also 4th at World Indoors earlier this year.
And Unique Thompson of Jamaica was part of Team Jamaica in Tokyo at the Olympics. She made it to the semifinal, but fell in that race. You know, the winds, and we saw in that first race, they're running into a headwind, and winds cause a little bit more havoc when you're trying to also manage those barriers.
Yeah, that women's 100 was run into a minus 2.1 meter per second headwind. So that wind's not going to change that much for this race, but a high quality race, including the current world record holder in Amusan and the last 2 world champions in the event, Danielle Williams in 4 and Toby Amusan in 5.
Women's 100-meter hurdles from New York.
Set.
And as we would expect, Charlton with a very good start her early on. She's now away from the field. Can she sustain it from that indoor 60-meter distance all the way to the end as she leans at the line and goes hard to the track? Alicia Johnson was closing fast, but confirmed now, Charlton the win, and a very speedy 12:56 into that headwind.
Yep, the wind minus 1.9, so still a lot of headwind for these young women to be trying to clear these 10 barriers into, but look at how close Alicia Johnson got on the end. So we know that the world indoor record holder at 60 hurdles is going to get out well. But here is where she has been vulnerable in the past. The last 3 or 4 hurdles, she starts to give it back, but she's able to hold on and get the win here in New York. You better believe that about 4 of these women, I think you can comfortably say, Danielle Williams, certainly Toby Amusan, and this young woman from the Bahamas, Devin Charlton, they are going to be in the final in Paris. And then here's the fall at the end. The most important thing, oh wow, the most important thing when you have a fall like this close to your Olympic trials in the Olympics, is just survive. And it looks like she's okay. So Devin Charlton taking a tumble, but getting the win here in New York.
Lewis, let's make sure she's okay.
And that was the first thing I asked her. The shoulders all right? You feel okay after that roll?
Yeah, all good. I mean, coming out the win, took a little bit of fall, but I think that's okay as long as I won the race.
Alrighty, so you have that great indoor speed we know about, and you were able to hold it. How did you do that and defeat really a spectacular field here just a few weeks away from your Bahamian trials?
Yeah, I think my start wasn't as consistent. I would have wanted to be my last couple of races, and so that was the focus coming in. And I think I executed that. Just felt laser closing really fast on the back end, so had to kind of lean for the line and might have overdone it a little bit, but it's all good. From
the heart, what's that big picture? What's that dream that you feel for the Paris Games for yourself?
Olympic gold.
Well said. Thank you, Devin.
Thank you.
All right.
Got the eye on the prize, and the former standout from the University of Iowa takes down a nice field. The Summer Games, and that road to Paris continues here in New York as we get set for the men's 110-meter hurdles. And Trey Cunningham, world silver medalist a couple of years ago, struggled a little bit last year, but he's running very well this season.
Yeah, he's trying to get back to that 2022 form when he was NCAA champion. Ran 13 flat to win that prestigious title, and then came back on home soil, getting the silver, as you said, as he and Grant Holloway went 1-2. That was his first ever global championships. Next to him is one of the surprise stories of the 2023 track season. Ran a 12.96 while still in college, and then made the team that went to Budapest for Worlds.
And a lot of these guys have been fighting for really one spot on that global team, as you see Devin Allen, who is in attendance here at Icon Stadium, one of only 3 men to have multiple appearances on a global team.
And essentially what this graphic means is that when you have something like Grant Holloway, Daniel Roberts, and the guy on your screen, Devin Allen, that have made just about well, the first 2 have made all the teams, and Devin has made all but 1. You're essentially fighting for 1 spot, because those 2 guys are so consistent. So it's tough to make any team in the U.S. trials, but for the hurdles, it seems to be unusually hard.
Devin Allen's coming back from a knee injury while playing for the Philadelphia Eagles as a wide receiver. Today is the deadline for making a trials qualifier, and he's unable to do so. So he will be a spectator like he is today in Eugene. And let's keep an eye on the start by Trey Cunningham out in the middle of the track, and he's swiftly making it through these barriers. Very clean over the hurdles, and he is up and away, but now a close, but he's going to hold everybody off here as he continues the winning streak. He had a great run in Jamaica just a couple of weeks ago, and he beats the Jamaican Broadbell here in New York.
Yeah, the wind died down, so only 0.8 this time in terms of the headwind that they're running into. But this looks a lot more like the Trey Cunningham that made the final at Worlds in 2022 and then got himself a silver medal. He's 4th from the right, and from the sound of the gun, he was gone. Broadbell, 3rd from the left from Jamaica, usually closes, as does Tinch. But they didn't close that much. Broadbell got closest, but this was a very comfortable win for the young man from Winfield, Alabama. Trey Cunningham gets the win here in New York in 13.21.
And now the results confirm. Cunningham is the winner, Broadbell 2nd, and Michael Dixon is 3rd. Put Jessica Ramsey of the United States is going to start. 32-year-old. Didn't compete last year because she became a new mom and says that becoming a mother was her greatest throw yet.
How many times have we seen women in this sport come back post-pregnancy better than they left? That's what she's hoping for this summer.
Looking to improve on a third round throw of 61.9.5. This format of Final Three you'll see at events like this one in New York, and also when we call these Diamond Leagues. So there was a field of 6 women. They throw for 5 rounds, and then only the top 3 advance. And it really is just an opportunity to kind of give them the stage. They'll hold all the events here until this Final Three is complete.
It's one of the format changes that we've made as a sport that I really enjoy, because you really get to focus in on the top 3 and then have them compete in that final round.
If you haven't followed the sport since Tokyo, you might remember Hulk Raven Saunders, and it's been a long road back for the Olympic silver medalist, just coming off a suspension in February for what we call whereabouts failures, where she missed 3 tests, but she has come back, has now the Olympic standard, and is going to go try to make the team in Eugene. As the mark is registered as a foul, they also lost a family member in Tokyo. Mom Clarissa died unexpectedly just days after they earned silver in Tokyo, so a lot weighing on Raven. Nice to have them back in competition here in New York. And Sarah Mitten is going to be someone figuring prominently in the discussions around a gold medal. She is the reigning world indoor champion, the Canadian record holder. Beat Chase Jackson, the winner of the last 2 world titles from the United States. And Mitten comes to New York and beats a largely American field here. Mitten off to Canada for competition in Edmonton later this week. The trials for Canada around the same time as the U.S. trials. They'll be staged in Montreal, Canada. But there are the final 3. Sarah Mitten, Raven Saunders, and Jessica Ramsey in the women's shot put competition. Well, another medal favorite, perhaps the gold medal favorite after also winning the world indoor title, Tara Davis Woodall, the former Texas Longhorn, has such confidence coming into this run up to Paris.
Well, she's the world indoor champion from earlier this year. That did a lot. But I tell you what I see just observing her, and as somebody who's watched her compete since high school, her run on the runway now, her run up is as good as it's ever looked. And I think it's why she's been so consistent, and she's just been lights out so far.
25.5 and a quarter was that mark. So we go back to the track here. Neutrogena men's 400 meters, and the world record holder is here.
We remember him on the outside lane in Rio with 2 Olympic champions behind him, and then when it was all said and done, a world record 43.03 to go along with his 2 world titles in 2015 and in 2017.
And beside him, that's Karani James, the most decorated athlete in the building. Owns a gold, silver, and bronze at both the World Championships and the Olympics. And he's still having stellar seasons. He's finished in the top 2 in all 3 of his races this season. And in an event that's kind of open, Otto, I think that he could land on the podium and add even more medals to his already stellar collection.
It's really open. Of course, still led by Christopher Morales-Williams, now the NCAA champion. So congratulations to Carol Smith-Gilbert and the University of Georgia staff for getting his season concluded, at least collegiately. And now he can think about being the Olympic champion.
Look at the rest of the field here. It includes former Georgia Bulldog Matthew Bowling, who is maybe finding his rhythm now as a 400-meter guy. He was a pretty legendary sprinter in high school, but the longer distance seems to be suiting him a little bit better.
That's the Sonya path. Start in the 100 and the 200, then you move up. Yeah, so I think Bowling's found where he's going to be as a pro. I don't think there's any room for him right now in that 200, given how competitive it is with Noah Lyles, Arian Knight, and company. But here we go, men's 400.
set.
As we start the race, also keep an eye on Dream Richards of Trinidad and Tobago in lane 4. He was the world indoor champion at this distance a couple of years ago, and he made the Tokyo final at 200 meters.
And there's a lot of speed in the middle of the track there with Bolin, Richards, and of course Wade Van Niekerk. But watch Karani James, who always has the best finish. And when he starts like this, where he's in such good position, it's really hard to beat him.
Dream Richards has gone out very well through 250. Now we see a response from the world record holder. Now here comes Matthew Bowling. And of course on the outside, Karani James.
For a stride here, and who's got the strength here to get to the finish line as they face that wind in their face? Karani James is going to take the victory, much to the delight of the crowd here in New York.
It was almost as if they were in slow motion. You know, when you're running the 400, sometimes the line can seem like it's just getting further and further away. And with that wind pushing in their faces, we could almost see it. But Karani James, who has been the most consistent this season, I got to give him so much credit, Otto, because he's running blind. He's running with all of his main competition behind him. But as a seasoned veteran who's been in every lane, in every race, in every major competition, it didn't faze him one bit. He was right with the pack up until this point, but he just uses every bit of his body. He's using all of his arms, all of his legs, to pull himself to the finish line. Not the fastest time, which we didn't expect because of the conditions, but another great win, which adds to his confidence going into another major championship.
Look, you could do a lot worse than to bet on Karani James when they come off of the turn 4 abreast. So James gets it done once again. The confirmation there, 44.55. Chris Bailey up for second, and the world record holder in third in 44.74.
Things off from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis in a couple of days. In New York here, the men's high jump competition. Ernie Sears of the United States at 7'3" 3/4 as he sails over the bar. Trying to match him, Donald Thomas of the Bahamas. He was a world champion many years ago, but he's been consistently in the mix at global championships. His third attempt also clears at 7'3" 1/4. Well, before we get back to the action on the track, if you were joining us earlier, the Olympic champion at 100 meters got carried off after that women's race, and Lewis Johnson has more.
Paul, that was an upsetting thing to see for track and field fans, especially those from Jamaica, many of them here in the stands. Elaine Thompson-Herah running down the track, finishing last and collapsing to the track, having her right ankle looked at. It was not a good look from the start, as you can see there in the orange in the middle, just not able to lift and push as we normally see Elaine Thompson-Herah. And then you'll notice here at the end, she just gives up before she finishes last, goes to the track. I made a couple trips back to the warm-up area to check on her, and the ultimate word that I got from a source there is that she is dealing with a lower leg injury on the right side of her leg. They don't know exactly what it is, weren't able to really give me a diagnosis on it, and her competition schedule from now on is really unclear. Two words I could give you to really describe her. I thought pain and then really disappointment. That's what I saw in Elaine Thompson-Herah in the back here. Paul?
And that's so unfortunate, Paul, because even if she's not going to be Olympic champion this year, you'd like to see her get a chance to defend at the Olympics. It doesn't look like it the way she has looked in her last 2 races, but there's still some time. If somebody can figure out what I think is an Achilles injury, and that's been bothering her the whole season, I was told by her camp, that's definitely going to need some very quick attention.
But that happened in the women's 100 meters as we get set for the ASICS men's 100 meters. And we teased up the world champion from Oregon, Fred Curley.
So Fred Curley has been very vocal about his ambitions this year. You see this tweet from last month? World record next time I touch the 100. Now, I don't think that's going to happen because of the presence of this headwind. But he was the world champion back in 2022. Remember that this guy used to run the 400, where he was a bronze medalist at Worlds. Switched to the 100, won the world title in 2022. But last year, did not make the final at Worlds. He has since changed coaches and shoes.
And he was a world champion. Next to him, Kendall Williams was a world under 20 champion.
And Kendall's run 9.93 this year. That was in Claremont a little earlier this season, as the crowd rises to their feet once again for these hundreds.
You look at the rest of the field here. Really Fred Curley's show here to back up what he posted. See what he can do here with a little bit of a headwind in New York.
We have the first false start of the New York City. Uh-oh. We have two guys on the outside who didn't hear the second gun.
Well, you know, it's funny. Earlier with some of the junior races, we had a situation where, so it may be that they just can't hear that second gun down there.
Could be. Now, I will say something. There have been a couple sprinters talking world record, and that is so dangerous in the Olympic year. Because in the Olympic year, that's a thing that does not matter. Times. Get on the top three, make your team, win the Olympics, get on the podium. The times don't matter. Nobody will remember what you ran in the trials. Nobody will remember what you ran at the games. Get your medal. So I'm looking on and I'm watching these sprinters talking world record. First of all, I don't see anybody that's in any danger of breaking Usain Bolt's 9.58 world record, quite honestly. But the talk of it perplexes me because I don't understand why in an Olympic year when time doesn't matter this year. Trust me.
So we'll go back to the start and see if we can see any movement.
I mean, there were a couple people moving, but that's not unlike any start that you would see in any race at this level. I just feel like this is going to be a warning to the entire field. Gentlemen, come up at the set command, please, and hold steadily so we can get this race off fairly.
We often talk about what success brings an athlete, and for Fred Curley being the fastest man in the world in 22, so much changed for him, and he's now spent the last 2 years benefiting from that, but also chasing that former success.
Well, how many times have I said it? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. So when you become world champion, now you have the expectation. So he goes into the world championships last year in Budapest, and everybody's thinking, I had him picked to win. I thought, no, he's going to figure it out once again like he did last year. And then when you don't make the final, that's like, whoa, what happened there? So as I said, he changed coaches. He's now coached by Quincy Watts and the fine group of coaches out at the University of Southern Cal. So that means he's training with Ry Benjamin and Michael Norman. But this year, his hundreds have been kind of checkered. We saw him early in the Diamond League. Those races, he was competitive but didn't win any of them. So he went from that to, okay, I'm breaking the world record. Okay, well, let's see. Because world record is one thing. And Williams next to him, he has a real challenge here because Williams is still number 4 in the world with his 9.93. Fred is yet to break 10 this season. Not that he's run a ton of hundreds, but his season's best is from March, 10.03.
And you can see the effects of that wind on the singlet of Williams. Back in the blocks a second time for the 100 meters.
Now he's out. Now he's out. I don't know what that was. Now Fred Curley's out. Because that was a pretty egregious jump. He knows it. I think he jumped and then he stumbled to add sort of insult to injury. Let's take another look. Fred Curley's in the block. Yeah, that's as clear a false start as you can have in any sport.
Well, you can break the record if you get a head start.
Yeah, I don't think that's how that's going to work here in New York. Yeah, so that's insult to injury. So he did false start and then he tripped a little bit. Oh yeah. So Fred Curley's New York Grand Prix has not gotten off to a great start, to say the least. And here's the thing, where else is he going to run to get a sense of how he's competing before Eugene? Because we're 2 weeks out now.
Yeah, 12 days from the start of the 2 weekends of competition. They go 4 days, then a couple of days off, and then another 4 days as they kind of mimic what they're going to see in Paris. That's been the setup of the trials since the early 70s.
I don't know what the delay or the debate is here. Or is he saying that the block slipped? Because that one I'm not buying.
Well, we have not seen any indication from the officials, and Curley, like a respectful kid in the classroom, has raised his hand. Can I speak with someone? And while they work out the issues potentially with his blocks, Dontavius Hill is over here at the high jump, already with a lifetime best of 7.5. That is another attempt at a new lifetime best at 7.7 1/4.
Let's go back and look at that replay and see if those blocks moved 1 inch in the previous start, because I guarantee that they did not. So I have no idea what any of this is about. So we're going to give you another replay look at the start. So here's Fred Curley on the left in the black. Okay. I rescind my comments. The blocks did now. Did he jump? Probably, but the blocks did move. So he can plead his case. He can plead his case. The blocks definitely gave out. So I guess that's one way to save yourself. If you false start, but your blocks also slip, maybe you get put back in. Doesn't look like Fred's going anywhere, that's for sure.
Lewis, what could you tell us?
All right, so here's what I'm being told down here. So lane 1, Sandra Davidson was told that his block slipped, so he requested a new set of blocks, which is what he's adjusting now. Now, as you look over to lane 5, Fred Curley is saying that his block slipped, and he's also now asking for a new set of blocks for this race. So that's what's happening down here, what the holdup is. But look right now, Fred is trying to explain to somebody who's really not an official. Now there's an official asking for a new set of blocks, showing them where his blocks slipped when he tried to start the race. So just to recap, Davidson of Jamaica in 1 has a new set of blocks, and now Curley in 5 is asking for a new set of blocks.
Here's Quanisha Burks. Burks sits in 3rd position overall.
And Curley taking off his shoe.
I think he's been told he's been disqualified. That's what I think. So 2 things can be true. Fred Curley false started. Fred Curley's block slipped. Well, the false start disqualifies you, and that's it. So I don't know what the issue is. And yes, he's upset because you don't want to come to something like this where you're talking a world record and you false start. But both things can be true at the same time. He false started, his blocks moved. Let's move on. We got a race to get going in here. There we go. So the world champion from 2022 is now jogging away from the 100-meter start on the infield and leaving these other gentlemen to contest the 100 meters here at Randall's Island.
And a quick exit through that area where a lot of fans are gathered. So a big gaping hole in this 100-meter story in New York today, as Fred Curley has been disqualified, much to the disappointment of the crowd here, and I'm not sure everyone's kind of fully aware of what was happening there. You see Davison now ready with a new set of blocks.
I think this makes Kendall Williams in lane 4 the favorite. He certainly has the best season's best, and he will look at this race with the absence of Fred Curley and go, well, I want to beat Fred Curley anyway, but I certainly feel like I can get everybody else. This is going to be a very competitive 100, but I like Kendall Williams here just based on how consistent he's been this year. And that 9.9 that he ran last month, May 11th.
Williams now 28 years of age, had a great start to his career at the junior level, as we talked about that World U20 Championship in 2014 when the event was held on U.S. soil. It's actually coming back to the U.S. here in a couple of years. Don't often see the junior champions emerging as the elite level senior champions, and he quite honestly hasn't kind of fulfilled that destiny from that year.
Yeah, certainly in the sprints, there is a traditional gap where we see a ton of amazing juniors that don't quite make it at the next level. But having said that, what about the Athing Moes, Sydney McLaughlin-Lavronis of the world? Allison Felix comes to mind. When we do have a prodigy that goes all the way, typically they end up being an all-time great.
So it looks like now Davison, who was in lane 1, getting a new set of blocks in 1, has now moved and taken those blocks and moved over to the lane that was once occupied by Fred Curley.
We're going to get this race off eventually, folks.
So while we're waiting for this event to finally commence, the men's long jump, Kerry McLeod of Jamaica won the bronze at the World Indoors this year in Glasgow, and he has the early lead here. This was his first round jump, 25 8 3/4 into that headwind that they've been dealing with. And in the women's long jump, Tara Davis Woodall, you know, she broke the collegiate record when she was at Texas that had once been held by Jackie Joyner-Kersee. And on a third attempt goes over 7 meters into a headwind. That is a legit jump. 23.5 and a half. Men's 100. That is race to the finish here, and on the inside in 2, Udodi Onwuzurike, the Stanford grad, coming through with the victory. It was the 2023 NCAA 200-meter champion for Stanford, as he holds off the field here in the men's 100. Kendall Williams finishing in 2nd.
Yeah, you look on the inside lane in 2, that's Onwuzurike, and he has the lead. Kendall Williams is fighting him all the way through the last half of the race. 10:24 to 10:25. It's not that much of a headwind. The wind 0.7 in their face. So a lot slower than we would expect, given that the headwind has died down significantly. So Fred's signing autographs.
Wasn't the day he wanted to have. Still working the room, but a disappointed Fred Curley did not get a chance to race the 100. Meantime, on Randall's Island, checking in on the men's long jump. He looks like he's ready for a summer in New York. Marquise Dendy, multiple NCAA championships while at Jump U at the University of Florida, as he moves into the lead in the 5th round. 26.5 3/4, 8 meters 07, with 1 round of jumping to go. On to the Orlando Health men's 800 meters. That world record has stood since the Olympic Games in 2012. In 2016, Clayton Murphy picked up the bronze.
Yeah, he also won the Olympic trials in 2021 and made the final in Tokyo. He was the only American to make the final in Tokyo, where he finished in 9th place. That's the last time he made it out of the heats of a global championship, though.
And this is Isaiah Jewett. Enjoy watching him run. He just missed the team last season after making his Olympic debut in 2021, where many of us will remember seeing that extreme display of sportsmanship when he got tangled up with Botswana's Nigel Amos and they ran through the line together. This year, he's the 2nd fastest American. He's progressed from 146, 145 to 144, which is what you want to see in the season, peaking at the right time. So hopefully we won't have much drama in this race, guys. We'll get off well.
How's that possible? No way.
But this should be a good one.
And going into Tokyo, it was Donovan Brazier being anointed as potentially the Olympic champion, and that didn't happen due to injury. And since that time, the U.S. has trying to find fire again in that event. I
don't think there was any track athlete more affected by the postponement of the Olympics than Donovan Brazier. So here we go, men's 800 from New York.
And the pace setter is Mike Columbus, who is being asked to race around this track to 50.5 seconds. Common to have pace setters here in non-championship racing. We won't see that at the trials. And Kind of just changes the complexion of the race potentially. Out to the front, Panatiu Lopez of Mexico, who's won 5 of his first 6 races of 2024. He was a semifinalist in Tokyo. 7-time Mexican champion leading the pace as Jewett is there effectively in second, as the pace setter will drop off here right at a lap.
Jewett always seems to get up for the Olympic years. That's why he made the team last time as a USC senior. And he looks full of run with just about 320 meters to go.
Yeah, and he usually likes to run from the front. When he was at his best, we used to see him take the lead and kind of run from brink to end all the way. He's losing touch a bit there from Lopez with 200 meters to go, Paul.
The thing about when you come out of college with only being able to win one way, you discover very quickly, Paul, that in the pros, you better be able to win from a lot of different places on the track.
And Lopez now coming and facing that wind head on, and here comes everyone to try to catch him here in the final moments. Lopez, does he have enough real estate to get to the line? He will indeed get there at the end, but good race to the finish by the rest of the field. Lopez will take the victory here in 1:44.96 as he goes sub 1:55 in those conditions. Let's look at this race to the finish.
Yeah, Lopez doing it the hard way. He was content to be in the front and dared anybody to pass him. Jewett looked like he would challenge for the lead, but then did not have a good final 50 as Lopez hung on.
You said it, Otto. That is the toughest way to run it. Once the pacer got off the track, he was in the front facing the wind the entire time. He looked a bit vulnerable with 200 meters to go, but he was able to find something in the tank, and that was very impressive running. It's cool here, it's windy here, so not ideal conditions for these athletes to run their best times. And so with everything going on, him staying mentally in the moment and running so well, he's got to go into the Olympics feeling really confident.
And he's been really consistent. That's his second 144 for
June 13th through the 16th on NBC, USA, and Peacock, as the best golfers in the world descend upon Pinehurst #2 in North Carolina. Back here in New York, men's high jump competition. Dontavius Hill of the United States, second attempt for him at 7.5. And that clearance, and you can see the reaction, as that is a new lifetime best, the kind of thing you want to be doing right before you try to make a U.S. Olympic team, as he takes the victory here in New York. Next event on the track, the Neutrogena women's 400 meters. I always like seeing that American record listed. Anybody else in the booth like that American record?
almost 18 years now.
Well, it's been 18 years, but the ability to keep it at bay. You got someone like Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni, and she has the talent to do it on almost any level at any event.
I'm telling you, every time we think we've seen her best, she does something that just blows my mind. Last month when she competed in LA and ran 22:07 and is now the second fastest woman in the event this season, I thought to myself, Otto, what can't she do? With a 22:07 new lifetime best, 48.70 is certainly within her grasp. You know, this will be her first 400 of the season, might be her only, so not sure how fast she'll run, but man, the sky is the limit for this young lady.
Well, and you mentioned it, you don't see her often. We saw her at an event in Atlanta, the inaugural Edwin Moses Classic, and this is the aftermath of that race. She is a rock star.
Yeah, but she's a reclusive star. It's not just she ran 22:07. She ran 22:07 in her 200-meter opener. That's the thing that makes it even more amazing. I think that she's eventually going to come back to this 400.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Full time, and then Sonia, well, you've had that record for 18, almost 18 years. Do you think there's any chance it falls today?
You know, records are meant to be broken. I would say today will be tough only because it's cool and windy. And I do think that in the 400, you got to find a rhythm, which she has mastered in the 400 hurdles. I mean, never say never, right? 22:07 is indicative of someone who can run 48.5, and so it is possible. So with her maybe not putting any pressure on herself, maybe we will see that time happen today. But at the end of the day, it's wonderful to see her on the track. I love seeing her compete in any distance, so we'll see what she has in store for us.
The world lead by the NCAA champion from Jamaica, Nikisha Price, of those amazing Arkansas Razorbacks.
Yeah, the Arkansas women 1, 2, 3, and 4 in Eugene yesterday. Women's 400 underway, and all eyes on Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone as she's in the middle of the track and already making up the stagger.
Sonia always says it. She likes when Sydney goes out a little bit conservatively through this first half because she finishes so well that it usually means that she's en route to a fast time. Well, Sonia, she looks very, very good through the first half.
Yeah, I would say that 23.5 is usually the marker to run 48, and she looks ahead of that. Otto, she looks to be on pace to do something really special.
Yeah, she found another gear, Paul, around that turn. Look at the gap between Sydney and everybody else.
And now the crowd bringing her home, and the only thing she's fighting right now is that headwind as we keep an eye on the clock. 48.76. The American record still stands, but another race where she is oh so close to making Sonia Richards-Ross a little bit more nervous.
And unlike in 100 or 200, there's no chance of them rounding it down. So Sonia, your American record is safe, but what a performance by the amazing Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone once again.
OMG. I got to tell you guys, as someone who, this is my event, that was unbelievable. You rarely see somebody able, in their first attempt at the event, run it so well. I think that 22:07 gave her the confidence that she needed. Otto, you mentioned it. The best way to run this race is to get out the first 50 as hard as you can and then settle into a great pace and a great rhythm down the backstretch. You see her passing Talitha Diggs with no issue, and she is just casually down the backstretch looking completely under control. Now this is where the most important part of the race happens, is where you really got to put your arms back into it and keep that momentum going, because you can lose it going into the turn. 35 is usually the rate you want to be at 300, and she seemed to be ahead of that when I was watching the clock. And then here she just never broke. She was able to keep the momentum even into the wind. 48.75, the second fastest performance ever by an American at this discipline. Wow, wow, wow. Great run for Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone.
Everybody remembers the world record in 2022, 50.68. We still are, just have our minds blown from that. And I'm telling you, if you're opening in 22:07 and opening in 48.75, there's no question the world record in that event. When Femke Bol steps on that track, these two, you do not want to miss that in Paris, period.
Wow, wow, wow is the message upstairs. What's the message downstairs, Lewis?
It's the same down here as well. So, Sydney, first of all, there's a big sigh of relief from our colleague, Sonia Richards-Ross, whose American record still lives. But it is just an unbelievable race. From the start, take us through just the mentality that you had to attack this 400 meters.
Yeah, I just wanted to get out there, get a race under me. The wind was a little interesting on the backstretch, but I'm happy with the time.
You hit a gear around the water jump pit, maybe with 150 to go. Can you explain or describe that part of the plan? How do you do that?
It's just working on the back end work, working on coming home. Gonna need it for those hurdles.
You know, I don't think the world or America sees you enough on the track, but when they do, you do something unbelievably special. How do you now piecemeal your time from now until the trials to make the U.S. team and then hopefully on to Paris?
Just go home, work on what we got to work on, and get ready for those games.
All right, last thing. When you saw the time, what did you think?
So close.
So close to Sonia's record?
Yeah.
Okay. Sydney, incredible run. I'm sure the New York fans want to see you, but once again, tremendous.
Thanks.
Paul?
So close, so close. Well, I can't think of a better person to replace that record, and I know it's coming soon. Keep doing it, Sid. We're all proud of you.
Half for for the start of those Olympic team trials. Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Swangard, joined by 4-time Olympic medalist Otto Bolden and 4-time Olympic gold medalist and a very relieved Sonia Richards-Ross. And let's reflect on what we just saw from Sydney. You know, a lot of people wonder how many events could she compete in Olympic Games. They talked about the double, but maybe that comes later.
I'm telling you, after what I just saw, I can't imagine how it's not at the forefront of her mind to attempt this double. In her first 400-meter race, she just ran the world-leading time, which makes her the world leader at 400-meter hurdles, the world leader in the 400, and the second fastest at 200 meters. You know, winning a double at an Olympic championship is what immortalizes athletes in our sport. And of course, she's going to be legendary. And I do hope that one day they make the schedule easier. It would be really hard for her to attempt it in Paris. And so she's opting to do the 400 hurdles, which will be fantastic. Otto, you already mentioned.
Yes.
It's going to be a race that we don't want to miss with Femke Bol. But I certainly do hope that in the future, this superstar will attempt that double. You see on your screen now, Femke Bol, who has been competing lights out this season. She's won indoors, ran 49-second indoors, and has been PRing throughout the season. So it's going to be a great matchup. The two best women ever at this discipline will meet up in Paris, and I cannot wait for that.
Still trying to get some of that lactic acid out of the system. Well, she's very focused on just a couple events, maybe the relay as well. For Noah Lyles, the talk has been about 4 medals in Paris, and in one of his signature events from last year, the 100, he's got a little bit of a rivalry already brewing after a race in Jamaica just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, well, he went down to Jamaica last weekend, and Oblique Seville, who's been 4th in the last 2 world 100-meter finals, got the better of him, set the world's fastest time, 9:82, and looked over, you see there, at Noah, and Noah did not appreciate it. And we know from last year, a disrespected Noah is a dangerous Noah. So he has all the motivation that he needs now to go to the Olympic trials and do well. But today, we're going to see him in the 200 where he's going after Tyson Gay's 19.58 stadium record that dates back to 2009. So Noah's ready to go.
A lot to still look forward to over these last couple of races as we get set for action on the track here in a moment. Let's check in on the men's long jump competition. We talked about Marquise Dendy, and he's had a good day in the competition. Probably already the longest in the world with a hat. And he finishes out the 6th round with a mark of 7 meters 84. 25, 8 3/4. His best 26, 5 3/4 to win today. And Tara Davis Woodall celebrates on the infield, as she often does. The University of Texas graduate getting ready for the trials, and will dance her way all the way back to the confines of Hayward Field in just about a week and a half. So that completes some of the field event action that was happening on the backstretch. But we stay on the backstretch now for the Xfinity women's 200 meters. You see that world lead, that's just a day old. And that happened at the NCAAs, but Gabby Thomas back on the track, doubling today.
Yeah, the Harvard grad, 2-time Olympic medalist. She won the bronze in the 200 and silver on the relay. Went one better at the World Championships, where she won silver in the 200, and she's hoping to keep that trend going, Paul. Bronze, silver, hopefully gold in Paris. So talked to her. I was in Austin the other day, and she didn't look so good when she competed in LA. She says that she was in the middle of a really heavy training period, and all of her focus is towards trials. So this is all just playing a part in that preparation for her to make another Olympic team.
So here's a look at the top performers this year. Mackenzie Long of Ole Miss. I don't think I enjoyed anybody at the NCAAs watching them perform more. She will certainly be a factor in Eugene, but you see where Sydney is, and then Gabby is 3rd. Here's Tamara Clark, who trains with Gabby Thomas under Tanja Buford-Bailey. She is certainly capable of winning this race as well. She has a personal best of 21.92. And so far this year, she's run 22.21 for 2nd at the Texas Relays.
And we'll look at the rest of the lanes here. We've got 5 American women. We saw that list of top times. That trials, toughest team to make.
Yeah, the 200 is extremely competitive for the women on the U.S. side. I am really looking here to see Gabby Thomas return to the Gabby Thomas that we saw win the Olympic trials in 21.6, because the 100 earlier didn't quite look the way we expect her to look. So a lot of pressure here for the world silver medalist.
Xfinity 200.
So Gabby Thomas is third from the outside. You see Prandini there, but a lot of work still for the world silver medalist.
And now she starts to find that gear she didn't have in LA, and she's going to win this one going away. So the Gabby Thomas that we hope to see in Eugene in a couple of weeks, so you can see. You guys figure out what she said at home.
That's what it feels to run into a minus 3.1
headwind. Yeah, she was fighting coming home. But what I do say I actually like, obviously she gets off, the start is never Gabby's best part, and that's why she runs the 100. She wants to improve the first half of her race. Where she's been really dominant in the past is this part of her race, which we did not see, like you mentioned, Otto, in LA. So it was good for us to see her find that gear, even as she is fighting this incredible headwind that she's running into, and to be able to beat a good field. This is how you want to go back into practice before the Olympic trials.
Yeah, I see a lot of strength here. I don't see the sharpness yet. Tanja Buford-Bailey will get her ready for the Olympic trials. I have no doubt that this woman will be on that team to Paris come Eugene in 2 weeks' time.
That headwind, 7 miles per hour. And not ideal conditions going that direction, but ideal result for Gabby Thomas, taking some confidence and a win from New York. And now let's hear from her now. She's with Lewis.
Yeah, Paul, I just told Gabby it was a 7-mile-per-hour headwind, and you were like, oh my goodness, how difficult was it as you came up the home straight away?
Well, it is pretty difficult, and when you have a win like that, you have to adjust how you run, and you have to adjust your race strategy a little bit. So mid-race, I really had to figure it out. Luckily, I had the 100-meter before, so I kind of knew what to expect, and then had to put the gear shift on.
Now, let's talk about today in this road to the trials. You doubled here, running the 100 into the deuce. Explain to everybody why this day was important as you get ready to face really the most difficult meet on the planet, probably in your event.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2 weeks out from the most difficult meet in the world, probably, you know, for a long time. It's the Olympic trials, so I like to do a couple of races, practice with the rounds, tune up, see where I'm at, and the 1 and 2 double was perfect for me this year.
How about this crowd here and the way, the energy they've given all of us?
Incredible. The environment here in New York is unreal. I mean, this is one of the best meets probably that we put on in our country.
Congrats, Gabby. We'll see you in Eugene.
Thank you.
Paul?
Well, now the stage is set for one of the great showmen of the sport of track and field, Noah Lyles, in Eugene for the trials in 12 days.